Greetings, fellow humans. I'm MartianBuu, and today I have for you a return to Naxxramas deck in every class. As usual, this is a mix of things that I think will be good and some things that I think will just be for fun. So hopefully there's a little something in here for everyone. First up, we have Reno DK. This is Frost Blood. The reason for this is the new Sindragosa Colossal. So Sindragosa requires Blood Frost. I think Frost Blood would play a lot like Triple Blood does, and I think Triple Blood loses too much for that to be worth it. So I went with 1 Frost, 2 Blood, because you still get to keep the board clear. So you do lose a little bit. You lose the Vampiric and you lose the 8 mana board clear, but you still keep like Patchwork and the 5 mana board clears, which I think are more important. The Sindragosa is pretty fun. Is she more valuable than those other things? I don't think so, but she is fun and she is pretty good. So if you want to play with the new Sindragosa and something that kind of works, just find some aggro opponents and you'll be able to still do what Reno Blood DK does. Next up is Big Demon Hunter. So I couldn't quite get this like I wanted. Ideally, this would be a tempo deck with cheating out the big demons as the top end, but what's cool is Fellscale Evoker. If you cast 3 spells while holding this, summon a different demon from your deck. So it's a 6 mana 5/7 that summons something ridiculous on the same turn. So that's a huge tempo play. I'd really like that as the top end for an otherwise fairly aggressive deck. But getting that just right while also requiring spells was a little hard. So I may revisit this as time goes on, but it's just relics. You activate your Fellscale Evoker, get out a big demon. And yeah, I actually won a couple games with this. It was pretty cool. The relics are just pretty good, so they're nice for keeping you in the game against early things and giving you the value to keep the pressure on after your initial evoker. All right, next up we have Druid. So this is kind of like Cthulhu Druid, but with Rivendare instead. I do not think that this is better than Cthulhu Druid, but it is fun. So the new things we get are Rivendare. He shuffles his 3 horsemen into the deck, and then once you've played them all and they've all died, the enemy hero explodes. So each of them has the death rattle. If the other 3 horsemen died, destroy the enemy hero. The 3 horsemen have taunt, rush, and lifesteal on them, and death rattle. So this will draw all of them depending on which order she picks them. Countess Ashmore. So you play the Rivendare first, and then you can go fetch them with Countess Ashmore. It is a very slow win condition, and I put in like naturalizes that you can kill the first Rivendare because it's not a battle cry. Unfortunately, it's a death rattle. Life from Death, though, this is going to go in your normal Cthulhu Druid list. If you've played Flipper Friends or Scale of Onyxia, it costs 1. So it's pretty good for a draw spell. So yeah, if you want to play with Rivendare and you don't want to play Hunter, we'll get to the Hunter deck in a second. You can do almost a Cthulhu shell with Rivendare. So then we have the spicy Rivendare deck. So this is Rivendare, same thing, death rattle, shuffle the 3 horsemen into your deck. But Flarksboom-Zuka, if you have no other minions, will go fetch all 3 of his friends and also kill them. So you don't have to worry about actually like playing them and trading them off or anything. You just like, you make sure Rivendare dies, and then you play Flarksboom-Zuka, opponent's hero explodes. So you're not supposed to run any minions, so Questline Hunter makes perfect sense. So you just run all the normal Questline stuff. To fit everything I want, I cut Aim Shot because we're not trying to win that way. We're trying to win with Rivendare and then have the Questline just be the backup win condition / removal. So I did win. With that said, I did win way more often with this just by being Questline Hunter than I did with Rivendare. So Rivendare is just kind of like, it's nice if it happens, but otherwise you can just questline people. So for a meme deck, it's actually surprisingly viable. If you wanted to try out Rivendare and you have Flarksboom-Zuka already, give this a go. Next up for Mage, I don't think Mage got any cards this expansion. Like the Mage cards are so bad, but what it did get is Mistake. So we've already covered in a previous video how Valet and Cloud Prince aren't good anymore. Mostly Cloud Prince. So what to put in instead has been a little bit of a toughie, but if you remember, people used to run Deckhand and Patches in every deck just because that's really good early tempo. But over time, Deckhand just isn't good enough. Well, now we have something that probably is good enough. So we have an additional 1-drop. Secret Mage has always wanted that. And it's a 1/3 instead of a 2/1. So that stat line is way better, and it goes and fetches your patches for you. So this is Secret Mage with better uses of the mediocre slots. So I initially built the OTK Priest deck in order to try that out and show it off, but they actually banned Test Subject. The combo was going to be Radiant Elemental to reduce the cost of your spells by 1. Test Subject costs 1, Death Rattle. When it dies, return all spells that you targeted it with to your hand. Then you use Embalming to give it Reborn, and the new Mind Seer spell to deal 2 damage to a minion and deal 3 damage to the enemy hero. So you can do that infinitely. You play the Radiant Elemental, play the Test Subject, target it with Embalming, now it has Reborn, hit it with Seer, it dies, adding Embalming and Seer back to your hand, and it comes back because it had Reborn. And you just do that infinitely until your opponent explodes. We were all worried that that was going to exacerbate some of the existing early combo problems, but they banned Test Subject right away. So we never even got to try it. It is not a permanent ban. It's a wild card. So that was like an emergency ban. They banned it for now. And then by next patch, apparently they're going to release it changed so that the combo doesn't work anymore. So what do I do for Priest now? Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest got some pretty good upgrades, much like other aggro decks like Secret Mage. Now it has Mistake to be a better early pirate, and Mind Seer is also very good for an aggro deck. So you get to clear your opponent's minion while also damaging their face. Pretty good card. I opted to put it in over Raised Dead because we still want to have just the 3 shadow spells so that we always get Mind Blast with Visions. So just went in over Raised Dead, and then otherwise completely run-of-the-mill list. Next up we have Pure Paladin. I actually got to Legend with this deck, not this exact one because I made some adjustments for Curator, but I had a lot of fun with the standard version of Pure Paladin in the Brawl, and so I tried a wild version. It's barely wild. It's got Zealot, Minibot, and Call to Arms in it, but it is wild. So I tried a wild version of it. I got to Legend. Didn't play that many games, but we got there. So I adjusted this list a little bit to allow for Curator. And I'm wondering how necessary that even is. Just because the Curator, if your deck has no neutral minions, draw a minion of each type. Light Ray is an elemental and a beast. So it'll grab you an elemental, one for the elemental, and it'll grab you the other one for the beast. So that's already really good off the Curator. And so it could be that it's worth adjusting this off of an Order in the Court type of strategy, just because Curator goes and grabs them for you regardless. Yeah, otherwise, so the things I added since I played it, I added McGurgle because he's a Murloc. We added Shimmering Stunfish because it's a beast. And then we already have a mech in here. And then we have the Light Ray. So Curator doesn't have to grab much. It only has to grab you 2 or 3 cards for it to be good. And when I played it, I drew 4. So it's nice. Next up, we have Pirate Rogue. So I was looking at HS Replay for mulligan and drawn win rate on cards to pick what's coming out. And you might think the picks are controversial, but the one that definitely had to come out was Cutting Class. Cutting Class is not good in Pirate Rogue. It was getting played because it was the best of bad options for the 29th and 30th card. So that came out for Jolly Roger, which is just insane. Like, I can't believe this is a minion. So 1 mana, 1/3, after your hero attacks, make a 1/1 undead pirate. So that's really good. And then even I think Mistake is just another just 1 mana, 1/3 pirate is better than the other options. Buccaneer is also really bad, both in drawn and mulligan win rate. Surprisingly, like, I was surprised to hear that. Like, people were telling me that, and I went and looked and like, oh yeah, sure enough, it's not good. And it kind of makes sense because like it gets pinged off. It's very fragile. It doesn't charge. It doesn't do anything. And sometimes if it survives, your Swordfish is going to be 5 attack, and you get to cast the Cutting Class for free. And that makes it seem really good. But the thing is, it's awful outside of those times when things just aren't going exactly correctly. So I think Mistake is better. And then because Jolly Roger makes you go wide, Sky Captain Crag becomes a lot cheaper, a lot more easily. So trying Sky Captain Crag over Smite. I wanted to maybe run them both and not run Frenzied Fellwing, but even though the drawn win rate on Fellwing is really bad, the mulligan win rate is extremely high, so I don't think this is a cut. But otherwise, that's the list. The other thing I was considering is South Sea Captain, because you go wide now, maybe that's worth it over Puffer Fist if you wanted to try that, but yeah, you can't go wrong. Next up, we have Galicron. I do think that this could be made more efficient, maybe by cutting Galicron and stuff like that, but I really wanted to do a bunch of silly fun things, so I did that. The new card is Cold Storage, so you freeze a minion and add a copy of it to your hand. Obvious synergies and Teemo. You freeze 3 minions, get 3 of them. So freeze your enemy minions. If they're good minions, you're really happy that you have all that value now. Then you can also copy it with Note Taker. Since we're running extra stuff for Cold Storage anyway, now that's when Invocation of Frost and the Wind Chill stuff starts to look good again. So we put all that back in because we have Zentimo and Note Taker in anyway. The other thing is Kragwa. So first of all, you can go infinite Kragwa just with Kragwa. You play Cold Storage the turn before, then the turn after you play Kragwa, adding a Cold Storage to your hand, target the Kragwa to get a Kragwa back. Next turn when you play Kragwa again, you will get the spells again. So you can do that also with like Invocations of Frost and stuff. But you can also do that with Shudderwock. So once you've played the Kragwa, later on in the game on turn 10, you can play Shudderwock and then Cold Storage your Shudderwock, getting Shudderwock back. And the next Shudderwock will cast Kragwa's Battle Cry, giving you another Cold Storage. You target the Shudderwock again and get that Shudderwock back. So with some Galicron in your pool, you're summoning 8/8 rushers and doing that infinitely until you your opponent explodes. I think that this is probably better without any of the Galicron stuff and probably with like half the gimmicks, because even if you're just running Cold Storage and you can just get a Shudderwock back, that's plenty of value. Going infinite is completely overrated in Shudderwock. You do not need to do it in almost any game. So just like getting the super guaranteed extra Shudderwocks just with Cold Storage is plenty, but this seemed really funny to me, so I did it. Next up we have Big Warlock. So Warlock is another one where it was a little awkward coming up with something that would be fun. What we ended up doing is Plague Eruption. So deal 2 damage to all minions. If you've discarded a card this game, deal 1 more. For discardees, we have Amorphous Slime, so it discards a random undead. And we have Scourge Supplies. So we draw 3 cards and then we pick something to discard. So the discards aren't very random. For this one, we just discard whatever we don't need in the moment. And for this, we want to discard it so that we can resummon it. For undead, we have Baron Rivendare. We have the Darkon Drothier, Abominable Lieutenant, Invincible, Kel'Thuzad, Lich King, Flesh Behemoth, Thaddeus. So like there's a lot of fun stuff you can do if you can pull it off. I actually went with Renathal because I couldn't cut it down the way that I wanted. I had to make hard choices, and I hate making hard choices. So I just like, you know, it's a Warlock deck, has plenty of draw, has Gigafin. Might as well make a Renathal deck, huh? And last but not least, this is my favorite new exciting thing to play with. Half the time I do one of these videos, Menagerie Warrior is just on my list. I really want it to work. So we've got the upgrades to this are Mistake again. This brought like looking at this, Mistake is like the most important card in the set. Just walking back through the things I've already done. But it is a dragon, so it activates Naxxramas as champion. So we have Amalgam, we have Mistake, and we have Tent Trasher. So Amalgam is going to be good at discounting Tent Trasher. Patches is also a demon now, so if you play a pirate to fetch him, they count separately towards Tent Trasher. Mecharoo and Click Clocker and Snip Snap were all just updated to be both mechs and beasts. So they get you that extra Tent Trasher discount if they're on the board with another mech, while also absorbing Ringmaster's Baton bonuses because they are mechs. So the synergy is increasing. We can do it. We can get there. But yeah, so there's enough mechs in the deck for Click Clocker. Tent Trasher is pretty easy to cast now with all that. I think there's a lot to play with in here. Everyone keeps saying, like, is Naxxramas as champion even good anymore? I think she is. I don't think she's quite Mr. Window, but we'll see. Menagerie Warrior actually felt really good to play. So I'm probably going to play that even a little bit more off stream today because I had some fun. So that was the deck for every class. I hope you found something that you're excited to play on day one if you didn't have one already. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment to support the channel. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.